The afternoon sun filtered softly through the kitchen window as Emily sat across the table from Derek. She had made him tea, the way she always did for guests, even though something about today felt off. Derek wasn't looking at her. He kept tapping his fingers on the table, eyes darting around like he didn't want to meet her gaze. "I just need 30 grand, Emily," he finally said, voice low but sharp. "It's not a gift, it's a loan. I'll pay you back." Emily folded her hands. Her face stayed calm, her tone gentle. "Derek, I've looked at your numbers. That's not a business. It's a hole you keep falling into." He chuckled bitterly. "Wow, you sound just like one of those bank managers. Cold, heartless." "No," she said quietly. "I sound like someone who's been careful her whole life and isn't about to throw away everything she's built." His jaw clenched. He pushed his chair back so fast it scraped across the floor. "You know what? Never mind. I should have known better. This family's always said you think you're better than us." And just like that, he left. Emily sat still, the tension tightening in her chest like a knot. She hadn't raised her voice. She hadn't insulted him. She'd simply said no. That evening, Marcus came home late. He dropped his keys in the bowl by the door, shrugged off his coat, and stood there in silence for a few seconds. "You made things worse," he said, without turning to her. Emily blinked. "Excuse me?" "He needed help, and you humiliated him. My phone hasn't stopped ringing. My mother's furious. Lydia's talking about not inviting us to the baby shower, because I wouldn't fund Derek's mess," she said, standing now. "You knew I'd say no. That's why he came to me, not you." Marcus shook his head. "You always act like you're above them. You could have found a nicer way to say no." Her heart dropped, not because she felt guilty, but because he wasn't defending her. He wasn't even trying to understand her. "I'm your wife, Marcus," she said, voice trembling. "When did I become the enemy?" He didn't answer. He just walked past her into the bedroom. Emily stood alone in the quiet kitchen, the tea long gone cold. For the first time she realized, maybe the biggest betrayal wasn't Derek asking for money. Maybe it was Marcus letting her stand alone when she needed him most. Emily had spent her whole life learning how to survive without needing anyone. She lost both her parents in a car accident when she was just 15. No cousins nearby, no grandparents to take her in. Just like that, she became a ward of the state, bounced from one foster home to another, always holding her breath, always watching her back. She didn't have the luxury of falling apart. Instead, she poured herself into school, into rules, into saving every cent she earned from her part-time jobs. College wasn't a dream, it was the plan. She worked during the day, studied at night, and slowly, quietly, built a life brick by brick. Every step forward was her own. So when she met Marcus, it felt like a gift she hadn't dared hope for. He was kind, warm and steady. His smile was easy, and he made her laugh in a way that melted the quiet walls she'd built. More than anything, he had what she'd never known, a big, close-knit family. They had Sunday dinners, matching Christmas sweaters, inside jokes. At first, it all seemed beautiful, something out of a world she thought she'd never belong to. But behind all that warmth was a weight she hadn't seen at first. The family was close, yes, but also heavy with expectation. Marcus's older brother Patrick didn't shout, didn't insult, but somehow made everyone feel small with just a look. A man of few words, but when he spoke, everyone listened, especially Marcus. Patrick had taken care of Derek when their father passed away, so Derek looked up to him, tried to copy him, but without the discipline. Derek was the opposite of Emily, where she had scraped her way up from nothing. He had always found someone to catch him. Every business idea failed, every loan disappeared, but the family always forgave him. He smiled wide, hugged long, and promised things he never kept. Emily didn't want to judge him. She tried. At every birthday, wedding, or cookout, she smiled, brought dishes, made polite conversation, but she kept her guard up. Because people like Derek, they took, and people like Emily, they paid the price when they said no. Still, she thought if she loved Marcus hard enough, if she showed up and gave them no reason to doubt her, they'd see who she really was. She thought wrong. The moment she refused to give Derek the $30,000, the mood shifted. The next day, Emily got a text from Marcus's mother. No greeting, just one sentence. "I hope the money was worth your marriage." She stared at the message, reading it again and again. It felt like ice sliding down her spine. The silence that followed was even louder. No one called. No one replied to her messages in the family group chat. Lydia, Marcus's sister, posted a family photo from Sunday lunch. Everyone smiling, holding plates of food. Emily wasn't invited. Her name wasn't mentioned. She turned to Marcus. "Are we not talking about this?" He rubbed his face, looking exhausted. "They feel disrespected." "I didn't insult him. I said no. That's all." Marcus shrugged. "To them it's the same thing." That's when it hit her. It wasn't just about money. It was about control, about loyalty. In this family, love came with strings. And if you didn't pull them the right way, you were out. Emily sat alone on the edge of their bed that night, staring at the soft glow of the phone screen. That text from his mother still there, haunting her. She had spent years dreaming of a family that felt like home. Now she realized she might have married into one, but it never really made room for her. Not unless she followed their unspoken rule, never say no. A week passed. Emily kept her distance, hoping things would cool down. Maybe they just needed time, she told herself. Maybe everyone was just hurt and would come around. She kept checking her phone, expecting an apology, or at least a message to clear the air. Instead, on Saturday morning, Marcus walked out of the bedroom dressed in jeans and a fresh button-up shirt. "You going somewhere?" she asked. He didn't meet her eyes. "Lydia's kid's birthday party." Emily blinked. "We weren't invited." "I was." There was a long silence between them. She tried to stay calm, but her voice shook. "So they left me out on purpose. And you're okay with that?" Marcus picked up his car key. "I don't want to make it worse." "So you're going without me?" she said, standing now. "You're really just going to show up like nothing's wrong?" "They don't want drama, Em. You said no to Derek, and now everything's tense. I'm just trying to keep the peace." Emily stared at him, stunned. "You're trying to keep the peace by letting them treat me like I don't exist." Marcus said nothing. The silence was loud, too loud. He turned and walked out the door. Emily stood there frozen, like the air had been knocked out of her. For years, she had been there for every one of them. Every birthday, every hospital visit, every holiday. And now she was being cut off like a stranger, while her husband went along with it. That evening, when Marcus came back, she was waiting. Her hands were folded, her face calm, but her voice carried something new, something sharp. "I need you to tell me the truth," she said. He sighed, dropping his keys into the bowl like always. "About what? About what you told them? About what they think of me?" Marcus sat down, rubbed his forehead like he was already tired of the conversation. They think you're not really part of us, that you look down on the family, that you're too strict." Cold Emily stared at him. "And you said what to that?" He didn't answer. She felt the hurt rise up in her throat. "You let them say I'm not family, and you said nothing?" "I didn't want to argue," he mumbled. She stepped back like he'd hit her. "I'm your wife." "I know," he said quickly, "but you don't understand, Em. They've always looked out for each other. And when someone refuses to help..." "I helped by not enabling Derek," she snapped. "You know that. You knew it when you didn't say anything. And I'm guessing this isn't the first time, is it?" Marcus looked away. That was all the answer she needed. "Tell me," she said, voice low. "How much have you given him?" He paused. Then quietly, 20,000. Last year. She sat down slowly. "You loaned your brother $20,000 without even telling me?" "It was different then," he said quickly. "He said he had investors lined up. I thought..." "No, you thought you could keep it from me and I'd never find out." He didn't deny it. Emily felt something break deep inside her. This wasn't just about money. It was about trust, about being left out, about being lied to by the one person who was supposed to stand beside her. "I thought we were partners," she said, barely above a whisper. "But you picked them over me, not once. Over and over again." Marcus opened his mouth like he wanted to explain, but there was nothing left to say. She stood, walked into the bedroom, and shut the door softly behind her. Inside, she didn't cry. She just sat on the edge of the bed, staring into the dark, and for the first time in their marriage, she felt completely alone. The days after that fight turned into long, heavy weeks. Marcus wasn't angry, at least not out loud, but something had changed. He moved through the house like a shadow, barely spoke, no eye contact. He left early for work and came home late. When Emily asked him simple things, what he wanted for dinner, how his day went, he gave one-word answers or acted like he didn't hear. The silence hurt more than shouting would have. Emily tried reaching out to his family, She sent a message to Lydia, just to talk. No reply. She called Marcus's mother, straight to voicemail. Even his cousins, who used to send her funny videos and check in often, stopped responding. Her phone stayed quiet. Every unread message, a reminder that she was now outside the circle. One evening, she stood in the kitchen holding her phone, debating whether to call again. She finally texted Lydia, "Can we talk? I just want to clear the air." 5 minutes later, a response buzzed in. "Family comes first. You knew that marrying in." That was it. No hello, no explanation, just a cold sentence that hit like a slap. Emily stared at the words, reading them again and again. She hadn't realized they had always seen her as an outsider, not someone who married into the family, but someone who needed to earn her place and failed. That night, she couldn't sleep. She walked past the study and heard Marcus on the phone in the next room. The door wasn't fully closed. His voice was low, but clear. "I know, man. She's just being stubborn." "No, I didn't tell her yet. I'll handle it." Emily's body went cold. She backed away quietly and went into the bathroom, locking the door behind her. "She's just being stubborn." That's how he talked about her. Not like a partner, not like someone he respected, just someone to be managed. She sat on the cold floor, pulling her knees to her chest. The next morning, she picked up one of her old notebooks and started writing. She didn't know what she was trying to do, just that the feelings inside her were too big to carry around all day. She wrote about the silence, the way Marcus avoided her, the way she felt erased. Her handwriting wobbled as she remembered being 15 again, sitting in a strange living room with a new foster mother saying, "We're full." Sorry, dear. She had felt unwanted then too, like someone passed from hand to hand, with no place to truly belong. Now, it was happening again. At work, her co-workers noticed the change. Emily had always been sharp, organized, on top of every deadline, but now she stared at her screen longer. Her smile was slower to come. She'd forget things, simple things. One afternoon, she printed the same file 3 times and couldn't remember why. Her boss, Teresa, called her into her office. "You okay?" she asked gently. Emily nodded too quickly. "Just tired." Teresa didn't push. "If you need to take a few days, we can manage." Emily gave a tight smile and said she was fine, but inside, she felt like she was unraveling. Her house no longer felt like a home. Her husband had turned into a stranger, and the people she had tried so hard to win over were now acting like she'd never existed. She started sleeping in the guest room, not because they'd argued again, but because the silence between them was worse when they lay side by side in the dark. Some nights, Marcus wouldn't even come home until after midnight. She'd hear the door quietly click shut, the sound of his footsteps down the hall, and then silence. She wondered if he was avoiding her or ashamed of her. In her journal she wrote, "I feel like I've disappeared, like I'm invisible in my own marriage." She started rereading old entries, little things she had forgotten, moments of laughter, trips, dinners, where they couldn't stop talking. How had they gone from that to this? She tried one last time to talk to Marcus. They were in the kitchen. She made his favorite dinner, stewed chicken and rice, hoping the smell would remind him of better days. When he walked in, she looked up. "Can we talk?" He sighed, but nodded. "I feel like I'm drowning here, Marcus," she said quietly. "Like I'm alone in something we're both supposed to be in together." He looked at her, and for a second, she saw something flicker in his eyes. Maybe regret, maybe guilt. But all he said was, "You should have just helped him. That would have made this easier." That broke something in her. He still didn't see it, still didn't see her. She pushed her plate away, stood up, and left the room. That night, she wrote again. "It's not about Derek. It never was. It's about the fact that when the fire came, I looked for your hand, and you turned away." She didn't know what would happen next, but she did know this. Whatever love they once had was now buried under silence, secrets, and a choice he kept making, again and again, that did not include her. It happened by accident. Emily was at work, still going through the motions, still feeling like her heart wasn't in her chest anymore. A co-worker, Melissa, was scrolling through her phone during lunch and casually said, "Crazy what people try to get away with these days." She turned the screen toward Emily. It was a news article. "Local man under investigation for fraud. Derek O. Benson allegedly misused over $50,000 in private loans." Emily froze. She grabbed the phone. Derek's picture was right there. The article said he'd been telling people he was starting a tech logistics company. He'd taken money from at least 3 investors. None of the businesses were real. The funds were being funneled into personal accounts and legal fees for a prior fraud charge. A court date had already been set. Emily's breath caught. So this was it. There had never been a business. The money Derek begged her for wasn't to build anything. It was to clean up lies he was already drowning in. She didn't cry. She didn't feel angry. Not yet. What she felt was something colder, clearer, a kind of truth that didn't hurt because it had already burned through everything. That night, she waited for Marcus to get home. She didn't make dinner. She didn't speak when he walked in. She just held up the printed article, waited for him to sit down, and then laid it on the table in front of him. He read it quickly, then slowly lowered the paper, eyes still. "You knew, didn't you?" Emily asked. Marcus rubbed the back of his neck. "I didn't know all of it, but you knew enough," she said, her voice steady. "You knew it wasn't for a business. You knew he wasn't honest. And you still asked me to hand him $30,000 like it was nothing." Marcus looked away. "I didn't know how bad it was." She stepped forward. "It doesn't matter how bad it was. You hid things from me. You stood beside lies. Not beside me. I was your wife, Marcus. You were supposed to be on my side." He shook his head. "I just wanted peace, Emily. You don't understand how they are. If I didn't go along, they'd turn on me too. I've seen it happen. I thought if I kept things smooth, we'd all come out okay." She stared at him, her voice soft now, but sharp like glass. "So you picked silence over truth, loyalty to dysfunction over the woman who shares your bed. You thought keeping their version of peace was more important than protecting us." Marcus didn't answer. His silence was its own confession. "I was alone in every room full of your family," she continued. "I smiled, I gave, I tried. And the first time I said no, I became the enemy." He looked up at her finally. His eyes were red. "I didn't know how to fix it." "You weren't supposed to fix them, Marcus," she said. "You were supposed to protect us. But you made a choice, and it wasn't me." She turned and walked to the hallway. Her suitcase was already packed, quietly zipped, waiting. Marcus stood. "Where are you going?" Emily picked up the handle. "Somewhere I don't have to beg to be seen. Somewhere I can breathe." "You're just going to walk away?" "I already did," she said. "You just didn't notice." As she stepped out the door, the night air met her like a soft wave. No wind, no storm, just silence. But this silence felt different. This silence felt free. 6 months passed. Emily now lived in a small apartment on the quiet side of town. It wasn't fancy, but it was hers. The walls were white, the windows wide, and the silence inside was peaceful, not heavy. She had donated most of the things from her old life, the wedding china, the photo album, the gifts from Marcus's family. They were all gone. What she kept were her books, her journals, and a few pieces of art she'd always loved, but never hung up before. Now, they lined the walls. She felt lighter, not because it didn't still hurt, but because she had stopped carrying what wasn't hers. In that time, Emily found a support group, a space filled with women who, like her, had spent years trying to earn love from people who only gave it conditionally. Women who had learned to confuse silence for peace. She listened to their stories and for the first time didn't feel alone. Her voice started to return bit by bit each time she spoke without fear of being judged. She also began writing. It started as a journal, but one day she opened her laptop and wrote a short piece called "No is Not Betrayal." She posted it online, then another and another. Within weeks, women began to comment. "I thought I was the only one. You put into words what I couldn't say. Thank you for helping me feel seen." She didn't write for revenge. She wrote to understand, to heal, to say the things she wished someone had said to her when she was lost in silence. Then, one Saturday morning, she got a message. It was from Marcus. "Can we talk? I'd like to see you. No pressure, just coffee." She didn't answer right away. She sat with the message for a day, maybe 2. Then she replied with one word. "Okay." They met at a quiet cafe. Emily arrived early. She wore soft colors, no makeup, and a calm expression. When Marcus walked in, he looked nervous, older somehow, like the weight of the last few months had left its mark. He sat down and didn't speak for a moment. Then he looked at her and said, "I'm sorry." She nodded. "I know. I should have stood by you," he said, voice low. "You were right." Emily took a sip of her tea before answering. "It's not about being right. It's about what love really means." He looked down, ashamed. I thought I was keeping the family together, but I was just scared. I understand, she said softly, but fear doesn't excuse betrayal. There was another pause. Then he asked, would you ever consider coming back? Emily looked at him, kind but clear. No, he nodded slowly, as if he already knew. You don't unlearn a lifetime of loyalty to dysfunction overnight, she said, and I can't wait around hoping you'll one day choose me the way I deserved back then. He didn't argue, he just nodded again. When she left the cafe, she felt no anger, no regret, just a quiet sense of peace. Some stories don't have a clean ending, but this one had something better, closure. The apartment was quiet, just the way Emily liked it. A soft breeze came through the window, carrying the smell of rain on the sidewalk below. She moved slowly around the room, lighting a single candle on her desk. The warm glow flickered gently against the wall, calm and steady. She sat down, opened her laptop, and refreshed the page. Her latest blog post had just passed 100,000 views. The title, You Don't Have to Break to Walk Away. She scrolled through the comments. Hundreds of messages, most from women she would never meet. Strangers, and yet not strangers at all. I cried reading this. This is my story too. Thank you for helping me feel seen. Emily rested her hands on the keyboard for a moment, taking it in. She didn't smile wide, didn't cheer, but a quiet warmth filled her chest. This wasn't just healing, this was purpose. She looked around her little apartment, the bookshelf, the worn couch, the desk with the chipped corner, and felt a sense of peace settle over her. Not because everything was perfect, but because she was finally where she belonged. She closed the laptop, leaned back in her chair, and looked at the flickering candle. Then she whispered, I'm home. And for the first time in a long time, she truly meant it. Hi besties, thank you so much for watching to the end. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.